Well, it's another day in paradise. Thank you for joining me here today on AccuNews. I'm Michael Lauber, and special thank you to Annie Cyrus for allowing me to bring you this video today on her platform. On Friday, she was kind enough to allow me to fill in for her on a live feed with Dr. Jason Hill. And afterwards, we received back a number of questions, both in the comments, through an email, a few other things regarding that conversation. And today, we're going to talk about transing the kids. So, if you're allergic to toxic masculinity, you may want to tune out now. Now, before we get started, though, I wanted to also take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone that helped Annie celebrate her 20th American Rebirth Day, and especially everyone that donated to that cause. She was able to reach her goal and raise $2,000 for Brandon House's Worldview Weekend Foundation. Again, good cause. He's another brother in the fight, and somebody that we all need to be supporting. Um, but without you and your donations, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you. We really do appreciate that. Um, well, I guess there's only one way to do this. We're going to dive in. Now, I am going to start off with a couple of slides here, but don't worry, you're not going to have to look at me for very long. All right, let's get rolling. All right, so before we get started here, I just kind of wanted to illustrate something. And this is the number of gender clinics in the US in 2007. As you can see, there's just two of them there. Well, fast forward to 2022. I don't know how many there are. It didn't say underneath, and I wasn't going to count all the little dots. You can tell, though, we've got a real problem. Um, this went from two, and I guess a few of those are in Mexico, a few of them in Canada, but still, the point remains. In what is that? 15 years, we've gone from two to dozens. There's probably over 100 of those little bubbles on the screen there. And so this shows the direction that we're going. And again, we see this more and more, and it being protected by law, which is the next part that we're going to get into here. So I'm going to pull up my web browser here, theoretically. All right. So what is a gender clinic? Well, I'm glad you asked. So this is an example of one that's over in Boston. This is actually part of Boston's Children's Hospital. This is their Center for Gender Surgery. So again, this is intended for minors. Now, we're going to get way more into this here in just a second, but in most states in the US right now, you do have to be 18 years or older to get any type of surgical procedures. Um, it's not quite as clear with medication. We'll kind of probably at least touch on that now. But this, I just want to show you what's available and highlight a few things. So, what they specialize in, or their current approach to gender surgery, they offer vagioplasty, phalloplasty, chest reconstruction, breast augmentation. Chest reconstruction, by the way, is a way of saying double mastectomy. Breast augmentation, that's for dudes. That's breast implants and facial harmonization. So again, um, plastic surgery, help you look like something you are not. And this is an area of innovation in gender surgery. So they actually do experimental procedures here on children, because of course they do. You can participate in various research projects. So that's great. And again, this is allowed. Not just allowed, but at this rate, it is encouraged in a lot of states. All right, well, let's get out of here before my brain pops. It actually gets worse, not better, though. So this is in California. Now, we did touch on this, but it's actually even worse than I thought. The children in California can now make life-altering decisions without parents' knowledge. Now, this is from October of 2021. That's when AB 1184 passed. So this is already the law. Now, this is being expanded. Now, this article is written kind of more focusing on abortion. So, but we're still going to read this because it's still applicable, because it's still allowing your kids to go behind your back, make decisions. And not only are you not told about it, they're actually not allowed to tell you about it. So not only can your 13-year-old child make radical life-altering decisions, such as having an abortion without your knowledge or consent, that would be bad enough. But your child can also use your family insurance policy to pay for that abortion. When your insurance statement comes, there will be no explanation of the services. So again, it's an effort to hide it from the parents. In fact, your insurance provider will be prohibited from disclosing to you what your own child has done and what your policies covered. And this is now the law in California. So again, it's chipping away at parental rights, that your abilities to control your child's actions. Well, you're responsible for them. Well, they're under the age of 18. Well, you're supposed to be the guiding force in their life. This is taking that power away from you and essentially giving it to the teachers that are pushing them that direction. Because again, that's where a lot of this is coming from. That's why we've had this giant increase, in my opinion. Your minor child can actually choose to get treated with cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers, drugs which can have disastrous lifelong consequences without the possibility of being able to understand the implications of what they're doing. And by law, you cannot find out about it. The child doesn't have to tell you, the doctors don't have to tell you, your insurers don't have to tell you. Well, not only do they not have to, they're actually prohibited. So now that you're all thoroughly angry, I want to introduce you to Scott Wiener. He is the rep from, District 11, which is San Francisco. LGBTQ lawmakers in 19 states have or will introduce laws to protect trans kids from civil and criminal penalties when seeking gender-affirming care. And again, you're going to see this gender-affirming care a lot because they don't want to use, sex changes, cross-sex hormones, more accurate terms to describe what it is that they're doing, what they're trying to allow kids to do behind your back without your permission. So now these are the states that currently have it on the docket. I don't expect it to move forward in most of these, but Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington, and West Virginia. Obviously, this is DOA in places like Florida. There is absolutely no way Ron DeSantis will sign this into law. Same thing with a number of these other states. Like, I don't think this is passing in West Virginia, Kentucky, or a number of other places. But then again, I've been surprised before at what our representatives will do to stab us in the back. But similar legislation to what we just went over, which again pushes parents out of the process and also criminalizes things. So like in California, for example, it doesn't just prevent your parents from being contacted or the knowledge from being disseminated to them, prevent insurers from notifying them. It also means that if you try to interfere, air quotes, with the process, you could actually be prosecuted for it. And again, we've seen before where they'll get like DHS involved. Sorry, not DHS, CPS. Well, probably DHS soon. I mean, they're sending FBI agents to parents that go to school board meetings. So, Homeland Security is only a step away. But anyway, they are trying to make it to where your kids can make the decision for you and remove that layer you're supposed to have of being responsible for it. Now, here's a list of representatives which are introduced or will be introducing this legislation from different states. I'm going to scroll through this here, and feel free to pause this, write this down if you're on one of the states on this list, and contact them and ask them what the hell they're trying to do. All right. So youth access to gender affirming care, the federal and state policy landscape. So this is from the Kaiser Institute, and looking at it and talking about states in lawsuits where things like this have already been put in place in Alabama, laws against this have already been put in place, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, and Arizona, and just discussing their efforts to block them in court. So again, like even as our side does pass legislation to protect children, they will fight it through the courts to prevent this from taking place, and again, take that decision-making ability away from the parents. All right, well, I need to go vomit real quick, and that is a great opportunity to hear from one of our sponsors, which will definitely not make you vomit, and that is Extractivity. This is a great product. I do use it myself. It's great, especially on days like today where I didn't sleep a lot last night. This gives me the energy to get through the day, and it has other nutritional value for you as well. So please check out Extractivity. You can find them on mystore.com, and we will be right back.
Extractivity is an all-natural energy and health drink developed by Brannon House several years ago with a team of experts. Extractivity supports a healthy heart, strong immunity, skin, hair, and nails, cognitive health, and cellular health. This all natural energy drink is loaded with antioxidants. But don't take our word for it. Do your own research to find the benefits of red wine extract, bilberry extract, grapeseed extract, pine bark extract, and vitamin C. Brannon credits Extractivity in part for his abundance of energy and good health. Order your 30-day supply now at mystore.com. Be sure to use the promo code on the screen for a generous discount. Extractivity, your all-natural source for energy and good health. Find it at mystore.com.
Thank you for staying with us, and thank you to Extractivity. Remember, this is the product that helped Annie break her 10 Red Bull a day addiction and still keep her energy level up, so she's able to bring you all this wonderful content every week. So you can find Extractivity over at mystore.com. Please use code AC21 to check out when you do. That helps support this program, support Annie Cyrus, and it helps support all the other content creators that are over at Frank's Speech, telling you the stories that the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Well, I guess there's only one way to do it. Back to this flaming dumpster fire, huh? One of the things that we discussed in the live stream was executive orders that Biden had signed for protecting transgender kids, as they like to say, for furthering the transgender movement. And there actually have been at least 2 of these signed by the Biden regime so far. The first was basically a yay, transgenders are great. That was signed shortly after he assumed office, we'll say. The other one was more recent, actually much more recent than I realized during the broadcast Friday. This was actually put into law on or signed June 15th. Biden signs executive order to protect transgender children as Texas continues their efforts to restrict gender-affirming care, which again, as we all know, that means access to cross-sex hormones, purity blockers, and permanently life-altering surgeries. So essentially what this does is he's instructing various government entities, all your usual permanent bureaucrats, to further their agenda. So state legislatures have introduced more than 300 anti-LGBT bills over the past years, according to the White House. The Texas legislature passed a law last year banning transgender students from playing on high school sports teams that align with their gender identity, not their gender actuality, but what they identify as. So again, this is preventing men from playing on the women's sports team. But what this executive order really targets is using like Health and Human Services, great example. So the Department of Education recently decided that if your school didn't let little boys in the little girls room and little girls in the little boys room, that you shouldn't get access to funding for the school lunch program anymore. So this is a way to strong arm schools into policy that they don't agree with or don't necessarily agree with or don't want to implement. Because unfortunately, a lot of schools don't have a replacement for that. So if you suddenly take away their access to this, their DOA, and all of a sudden they don't have a way to pay for lunch for their kids, especially in like rural areas or impoverished areas. So they get forced to implement the policy that way. They strong arm them into it. And this is also where a lot of these decisions are made when you see like the military now being forced to like take showers with people of the opposite sex, or people that are in the middle of a transition or anything else. But this is how a lot of that's done. It's through executive orders or just executive fiat in general. Because again, if this was passed by law and a senator or congressperson actually had to sign their name to it, and they would never win the next election, because this is not something most of the country is going to get behind, despite of what the media is telling you. Most parents don't want anything to do with this stuff. Moving on. So this is from the whitehouse.gov, and this is from Trans Visibility Day. Fact sheet: Biden-Harris administration advances equality and visibility for transgender Americans. So this is basically more virtue signaling at the top. Just, yay, transgenders are great. That's what we need, is more of those. Reinforcing federal protections for transgender kids. The Justice Department announced today that it has issued a letter to all states' attorney generals reminding them of the federal, constitutional, and statutory provisions that protect transgender youth against discrimination, including when those youth seek gender-affirming care. So, as I mentioned a minute ago, a lot of times these things are done through policy that's implemented through various government agencies and departments. Um, so, this could be something as simple as the State Department now allowing X as a gender on your passports, I think. Yeah, passports. Um, which again, like it, it's not as big of a battle as the rest of the things we're fighting, but still, it's another way of just chipping away at both common sense and our individual rights to make these decisions on our own. Um, but this again is how they push out a lot of this policy. So to give you another example, in Wisconsin, Title IX was used recently, which those of you who aren't familiar, Title IX is generally like it's for primarily college students, but it's uh, gender equality. It's usually used like for sports, for example. There has to be funding for like a women's sports program if there's a men's sports program. So they have used Title IX recently in Wisconsin for a fifth or sixth grader, I think sixth grader, um, who he was air quotes misgendering one of his classmates that had transitioned, was refused to refer to them by their new pronouns, and they're now suing him for some sort of sexual discrimination. And again, this is our government doing this to a freaking kid, just because he won't live in fantasy land with whoever this is, with the guy or girl that's changed gender, air quotes. But again, like passing these things by law is just not going to happen. There's no way they're going to get Congress behind it. Even with the majority of Democrats, they would just be annihilated at the next election cycle. And I mean that figuratively, not literally. So nobody call the feds. Well, now that I'm sure I've made all of you thoroughly sick, which I apologize for, well, actually, you know what? I guess that helps to kind of illustrate just how disgusting this is and why we all need to get out in front of this before it becomes even more pervasive. Because there are some things that we discussed that we didn't even really get a chance to touch on today, such as how this is kind of infiltrated our schools and being pushed on children, the Tavistock Center over in the UK. So if this is a subject that you guys are interested in, want more information about, or want Annie or I to bring on other experts to discuss with you, let us know. Leave a comment down below. Send us an email. You know what? I'll even keep my eyes out for smoke signals. But let us know what you'd like to see. Again, special thank you to Annie for allowing me to bring you this broadcast today. I really do appreciate it. And again, I wanted to take one more time to thank everybody that helped to donate to her 20th American Rebirth Day. This is a big deal. It's very important to her. And I'm glad that you guys were all able to help her hit her goal and raise $2,000 for Brandon House and the Worldview Weekend Foundation. Again, it's a great cause. So thank you for joining us here today. Annie and I will be back on radio this Thursday on Podbean. We'll have a guest for you again. We may be doing a live feed tomorrow. If you ever want to find out what we're doing, though, just go to liveuptofreedom.com. Check the website. We update that pretty regularly, and all her new material is always up there. Whenever I'm fortunate enough to be on one of these programs, my show will be up there too. So thanks again for joining us today, and don't forget to live up to freedom.